Matt Walton joins us to talk about working with Scorsese and Pacino on the Netflix flick. I am your host, Michael Dolce, as always joined by my co-host extraordinaire, Mr. Hassan Godwin, Lord of the live stream. How you doing, sir?
It's Wednesday.
Yes, it really
I'm good
is.
for Wednesday. I'm good for
It really is.
It always really is Wednesday, Mike.
So,
what do you mean by it really is? That's
I know.
A strange reaction.
I know. Well, I am an enigma wrapped in a riddle.
Yes.
Wrapped in a strange...
buried under a babbling brook.
Strange reaction. So I got to tell you, and we're going to review Birds of Prey a little later. We are.
Yeah.
We're going to in our next segment. We will take on Birds of Prey. We're also going to take on the controversy of Birds of Prey, because a lot of people are trying to justify why it didn't do well. Gary Conway, actually very famous, who I love his writing, tried to blame it on, or his opinion, and it was a lighthearted opinion, not a hot take, but it turned out to be a hot take that I just happened to stumble upon across Twitter.
Because they always are. Because every time you say anything, it's a hot take.
It's a hot take, right?
Yeah.
He was talking about maybe the male audience isn't mature enough for a movie like that. That's the way he framed it. And obviously that was something, but I know why Birds of Prey flopped.
Okay.
And it is
now,
it is a
now
virus.
It's going to be a hot take from you.
It is a virus that has leapfrogged from me to you. Now you also have this predictions sure to go wrong. So I'm going to just play this.
I know. Oh boy!
Yeah, this is from last week's show. We had that Kevin Sharp on, and he was fantastic. Here's our predictions. Yeah. So all right, predictions sure to go wrong. Birds of Prey. Hassan said $1 billion movie. I said it's going to be
billion.
70
billion, not
that's
million.
That's what I said. Billion.
You said million.
No,
well, now that's a hot take.
That's
it will make 1 million.
Totally hot.
1 million will be the total.
70 to 80 million opening weekend for myself. What's your prediction?
Whoa.
Sure to go wrong. All right. Now.
Wow. All right. Well, so basically,
yeah,
Warner Brothers should be looking for us. Right?
now you might sit there and say
send people after us.
You might sit there and say, well, look, it's a fluke, right? You guys just happen to do this. But I actually bring you evidence from the very second episode of Secrets of the Sire. This is me predicting Deadpool's box office. So hang tight, and it's gonna be a bumpy ride. Here we go.
But yeah, so Deadpool. Everyone's got high hopes for this movie. I think it's going to flop. I don't want it to flop. I'm rooting really hard. Like I said, Ryan Reynolds, great. Love that guy. This is a great role for him. It's a perfect role for him. However, I don't think it's going to flop, and I think it's your fault. Yes, every single Deadpool fan out there is going to be the reason this movie ends up kind of coming and going.
You back then you were very antagonistic towards your audience.
Well, I didn't have you to hold me in check. I was a free reigning, free flying. This was my second episode. I'm trying to poke the bear a little bit there.
Oh my God! You came out of the gate swinging. You came out of the gate swinging. And hey, everybody who bothered to listen, F you. You're tanking movies, and stop it. That's your take on the whole thing.
First time, shame on you. Second time, shame on me. See, so this is not, and it's got to be genuine too. See, there was I forget which movie that came out, and I was trying to purposely make it do really well. So I said it's going to do terrible, but it doesn't work. You know, it doesn't work when you do that. It only works when you genuinely
at least this time we're not blaming anybody for. I mean, we blame ourselves.
Right.
We ourselves are the culprits, but we're not. We didn't try to.
Right.
You know, we didn't blame anyone for it. So
correct. Yes.
There's that, but I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. So basically, if we predict it's going to do bad, it's going to be it's going to be Venom.
Genuinely, we have to genuinely feel it's going to. It can't just be a haphazard. It's got to be a genuine, feeling. Or if we genuinely feel it's going to do great, that's a bad omen. That's just a bad omen.
Yeah, here's the thing.
We are the kiss of death.
I just said $1 billion. I'll be honest with you. I said $1 billion because it's completely impossible to predict what's going to be a runaway hit and what's not. It's not especially comic book movies. Comic book movies are not commiserate with the quality of the film anymore. Yeah. Because there are some extremely good comic book movies that have come out even during the golden age of comic books, and they've not done $1 billion. Most of them are successful. Almost every comic book movie is successful by standard industry terms.
Yeah.
But you got Marvel cranking out Infinity War and and Endgame and movies like that, and then DC creeping up. I mean, DC made Aquaman $1 billion franchise. Aquaman. Yeah, I know. No, I know. Aquaman, which was kind of the joke from Entourage, that it was going to be. So yeah. There's no way to predict it. So I'm looking at it as like it's a social.
My question is, how can we capitalize on our prognosticating
for ourselves?
Success? Like I'm just wondering that if someone was to come up to us, like a studio executive, and be like, "Hey, I want you to really trash this movie and say it's going to be awful. Everything's riding on this, so I need you to be. I need the opposite to occur." But I feel
that's going to work.
Right. I think it goes against the karmic spirit of when we actually genuinely feel something.
We have to set ourselves up as swamis.
So we can't even really capitalize on it, because as soon as we
can.
Okay.
What we have to do is we have to make it kind of a gamble for anyone to ask us our advice. Okay.
I got you. So then
we make them pay for the chance. We don't make them pay for the advice. We make we'll get them on a gambling angle.
See, I didn't have this. I didn't have this when it was just me. That's it. I would have just cursed out the guy coming to me, and life would have just kept going.
Blame the audience, and let's just keep this. Let's just keep this going.
We will get into Birds of Prey in our next segment. We will review it. We'll talk about the controversy. I will give you my actual take as to what happened with this movie after watching it. And we'll do that. We also we've got the Irishman's Matt Walton coming in our third segment as well too, and we will
like it'll be awesome.
Do a very abbreviated spin the racks very very toward the end. But first, we start with the Oscars. Going gold for Joker. The 92nd Academy Awards ended with a surprise as Parasite took home the Best Picture prize. But however, leading up to it, it was a foregone conclusion that Joaquin Phoenix was going to take home the Best Actor trophy, as he had swept the rest of the awards. Other winners included Renee Zellweger, Brad Pitt, and Laura Dern, who also basically just kind of swept it. It was one of the lowest rated Oscars, probably for that reason, in that there was no real build up to this, although the ending with Parasite, I guess, shocked Hollywood, and it made history. It was something that had never been done before, a foreign film winning. I want to give a shout out to our faithful listener, Alicia Davis, who did predict in the comment feed last week that it would win the Best Picture. And
so she can't be part of our plans for
no, this, and in true spirit, and I don't have it here, but
we can't have anybody who properly predicts anything.
No, I literally, I think I shot that down on the Facebook feed. I didn't. I was like, nah, that's never gonna happen. Telling you, you got to bottle this stuff somehow. I don't know.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what we got. It's exclusivity. Ooh,
yeah,
I can talk. Exclusivity. That's where the money is. We make our opinions exclusive and incentivize people to take a chance on getting a favorable, which from us would be a negative, opinion. That it's gold. We're gonna make a fortune. It's gonna be unbelievable, unprecedented, billions. I say, or we just effed ourselves just now by predicting it was going to be a great thing.
Before I get to the quote that I read from the Hollywood Reporter, which I liked about the ceremony and the Oscars in general, excuse me. I wanted to just get your take real quick on Joker winning, because this is something we all just, I mean, we at least we got that right last week in knowing that Joaquin Phoenix was going to win. Does this do anything for comic book movies? Is this a door opener? Like Parasite is a door opener for the foreign film bombshell to now kind of enter into the equation for the Oscars. It really does impact the global scale of what's what it could mean for the rest of the Academy, having having foreign pictures now actually vie for the top spot. Does that have any impact? Are we seeing more Logans? I mean, will we ever see an X-Men movie? Will we ever see a Marvel movie? Will we ever see a DC movie vie for the top spots, which they normally don't get accepted into the club?
What did Black Panther win?
Black Panther didn't win. It got nominated for Best
nominated
Picture.
for Best Picture.
Best Picture. But see, Best Picture, the nominations, it's happened. Black Panther did do that. Joker, kind of followed suit. So I mean, in that regard, there is that kind of progress. But does Joker do anything else or no?
You're saying does it kind of change the game?
Yeah.
As you're pertaining to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. One I've noticed over the years of being alive, that game is really stubborn. That game doesn't change.
Yeah.
It broadens out. So the introduction of Parasite might open the field a little more, so you could put some more players on the field. You know. But the game itself is still going to be the game. I don't think it's going to, because the next trend, and granted, we don't know where the end of the comic book bubble is. Right. And if directors start adapting works like Joker,
mm-hmm.
They start making things like that where they imbue it with other various like hard hitting like social issues and stuff like that. We'll probably be seeing comic book movies for a long time,
mm-hmm.
even though they're going to be more and more masked as as kind of standard, I guess you would call it, or mainstream, or not even mainstream, but old stream.
Mm-hmm.
With movie sensibilities. But I don't really think. I mean, I think the Academy is going to be the Academy. It's going to be stubborn. It's going to make decisions that nobody understands. There's
mm-hmm.
a lot of consternation about how about Parasite winning and over Joker, which made $1 billion, and nobody even had heard of Parasite. And so they were, they're saying, "Oh, it's a woke situation. It's it's about it's PC culture and stuff like that," and they're forgetting the Academy picks movies every year that no one's ever heard of to be Best Picture.
Mm-hmm.
They've had the box office has never been a prerequisite for whether or not a movie is going to win an Academy Award, especially for Best Picture.
Right.
So I think the Academy is just going to be vexing and stubborn and infuriating and confusing as ever. You know?
Yeah.
But I do think, to your point, that the game has incrementally changed where basically maybe no film is going to be excluded from it.
Here's the thing. It kind of reminds me of a Seth Rogen quote where he talked about why he's one of the best in Hollywood. He says, because I stuck around. And he talks about how he ended up taking karate as a kid, and he was one of the only like Jewish kids, and he was really not very good at it, but he stuck with it. And after a while, he became the most experienced. So then people kept dropping in and out, and the entry level, so eventually he was like one of the best in the class. And I feel like comic book movies have kind of done that now. If they're going to continue to stick around, because they're going to, right now, they are the only thing making money for studios, unless you're Birds of Prey. And it's what's going to stick around. It's what's going to be here. So Hollywood is going to have no choice but to recognize them, because filmmakers like Todd Phillips are going to say, well, I can't make Taxi Driver because no one wants to buy it, but I can make Joker, and I can make it like Taxi Driver. So I'm going to do that. And I think that's where we're headed with Hollywood. Okay,
but is that a game change, or is that just?
No, I think Joker's an outlier. I really do. I think in terms of what you said, it being incremental, 15 years from now, it might be.
It might change the game to an
You might
extent.
look back and go,
But
boy,
15
Joker
years
really
from now,
opened the door.
nobody's going to be watching the Academy Awards as a way, as the trend keeps going. So
Kevin Hart will eventually host it, and we'll all watch it.
They may be nominating television shows for Best Picture by 15 years from now.
I know. Well, at that point, we might be living in the movies. Like movies, literally. That's where it's headed. Predictions sure to go wrong. All right, when we come back, Birds of Prey failed. Birds of Prey failed to take flight at the box office. We'll tell you why. It's not because it wasn't sexy enough, and it wasn't because the male audience is not ready for it. We'll give you the reason why Birds of Prey did not take flight when we come back. I'm everything my 19-year-old self fought hard to not be.
Yes, you are the.
Like 19-year-old self is like,
you've become what you hate. You've become the enemy.
19-year-old self, don't sell out. 39-year-old self is like,
sell out every night.
Out. Sell it out, baby.
First sign of trouble. Sell out.
Welcome back to Secrets of the Sire. Secrets of the Sire is brought to you by all of our beloved patrons, dedicated fans, Tom Osa, Craig Caruso, Einar Peterson, Matt Beyer, Omar Morales, Brian Phillips, our program director, Stephen Dolce, as always, our Uber fan, Christina Dolce. You can find us on patreon.com/Sire Studios. Just remember, we did the switch over to Sire Studios. So if you're looking for it at /Secrets of the Sire, it's not there anymore. Also, check us out at Instagram, Sire Studios, Twitter, Sire_Studios, secretsofthesire.com, facebook.com/both Sire Studios and Secrets of the Sire on Facebook as well. Go like us, comment, share, hate us, as long as you give us views, because we are corporate chills and we are looking to capitalize however we possibly can. Just a reminder, this podcast,
to sell out
this
every
podcast, this podcast will be up on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spreaker, Spotify, Soundcloud. We're basically on every possible platform you possibly can be on, except no, everyone. That's it. I was trying to come up with something clever. I steered that shit. I basically kind of like I pulled the car over. I was trying to drive toward a quippy comment, and I got none. So
and that didn't work out.
Don't
ever do that again.
What also did not work out was Birds of Prey. It failed to gain altitude.
That a segue?
That was a good one. What's wrong with that? Come on. Failed to gain altitude in its box office debut over the weekend, earning a tepid $33.3 million.
Oh, Birds of Prey failed to gain altitude. Get it? Because they're birds.
Well, I said failed to take flight. See? Doing good.
Oh, come on.
It marked one of the lowest domestic launches in modern times for a studio superhero pick. The female-led film also struggled overseas, where it bowed to $48 million for a global start of $81.3 million. Now, ironically, it is going to make money, because I think the budget was something like $70-80 million. It wasn't that big. The pick, and this is also from Hollywood Reporter, the pick was never meant to score a mega opening, since it is a spin-off and sports an R rating. Still, the Warner Brothers and DC title had been tracking to start off with at least $50 million to $55 million.
It was supposed to do better than it
and
than it
$60
did.
million or more overseas. So again, in the words of Ari Gold, if you hit expectations or exceed them, throw a party. If you don't, jump off a bridge. I ad-libbed that but that is the gist of the Ari Gold quote. One day I'll get the actual quote and say it correctly.
Oy.
Real quick, if you haven't seen the movie, which I know you haven't because no one saw it, so just be prepared. We did see it, and we're going to do some spoilers. That's for our audience out there. Couple
thoughts. Nice of you.
Couple thoughts when talking about the movie itself. When you were a kid, and we got to see a lot of action movies as a kid, at what point when you were a kid did you realize that the action that you saw on screen is not what would happen in real life if you actually tried to do that? For example, I remember maybe being 10 years old and playing karate with my friends, and I would do a jump kick, but they wouldn't fall down. And I'd be like, I don't understand. In the movies, they just fall down. I don't understand. When I throw them up in the air, they're supposed to flip over. What's going on? At what point did I not realize?
You're a lousy jump kicker. That's good.
Well,
that's obvious.
Look, we're still playing pretend fighting. Maybe it's not 10. Maybe it was 8 years old. Maybe it was 9. I don't remember. I'm going to go 8 years old because my third grade sleepover party was us fighting invisible ninjas all night, and then we eventually fell asleep. So there's a point where you realize that this stuff isn't quite real, and that's okay. But watching Birds of Prey, I'm kind of sitting there saying, this is the most unrealistic action movie I've ever seen. And it's not just because it's women. It's because the heroes literally are... Rosie Perez is like 55 years old, and she's kicking the crap out of like bouncers at bars. And I'm like, all right, so this... It took me for a second. I go, okay, this is going to appeal to an 8-year-old. Perfect. I get it. That's the kind of movie it wants to be. It wants to be an 8-year-old movie. However, it's an R-rated movie, and it's a hard R-rated movie. Limbs being torn off and eaten. People being exploded by bombs, F-bomb here, F-bomb there, F-bomb here. And I'm sitting there going, oh, okay, so it's trying to be Deadpool, so it's appealing to the 17 or older crowd. Except what we're seeing is a movie that doesn't know what it wants to be. And I think that therein is my take as to why the box office failed so miserably. People also are indicating the marketing, no one knows what Birds of Prey is, and comic book fans who do know what Birds of Prey is like, well, that's not Birds of Prey because Harley Quinn's not Birds of Prey. I think that could lend to it, but I don't really think that's the number one reason. I think ultimately this movie just had no idea what it was trying to be. And when that happens and you get people going to see the movie and they go, this kind of sucks, they're going to walk out and go, this kind of sucks. And so people who have heard of it and don't know what Birds of Prey are, they're not going to look much further. And people who do know what Birds of Prey are and hear it sucks, they're going to like, I'll wait for it to come on cable, or I'll wait for it to come on Netflix. That's my take. What do you think?
Oh, that's a good take. I don't know.
All right, show's over.
I saw this. Yeah. All right. Move on to the next segment. Let's just,
what's your review of the movie? What's your take on the movie itself?
Well, it's a genre movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's a comic book movie. It's I see what you were saying when we were talking last week. We were talking amongst ourselves last week, and you was like it had a John Wick vibe.
Mm-hmm.
It was very, very John Wick influenced.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know DC. I don't know the Birds of Prey. I never read the Birds of Prey. Right.
Well, this wasn't Birds of Prey, so don't worry.
Well,
you didn't need to.
Some of them were the Birds of Prey.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that Harley Quinn wasn't one of the Birds of Prey, and then of course it clarifies that in the title.
Right.
Harley Quinn and the Emancipation.
Yeah, I know.
I know. However, the movie didn't bother me so much. I think the problem, and I will not predict why it didn't do as well as it is as they were projecting it would do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a social issue with it other than the fact that people make such a social big deal out of it.
Yeah.
Like it's supposed to be and like I said, with that goes back to our constant arguments about whether or not it's the product or the way the product is sold.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're selling this as this, this great emancipated female extravaganza,
mm-hmm.
you're going to turn off a segment of the audience that doesn't want to be preached to.
Correct. People want to buy, they don't want to be sold to. I've always said that from day one.
Yeah, because they want to be the ones in control.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
and then they talk about like people are dumb in general because they don't know.
A person is smart. People are dumb. Tommy Lee Jones, he says that. Very famous line.
Oh, I didn't hear that. All right.
Continue. People are dumb.
People are dumb. When you were talking, I let you fucking talk. But anyway.
Big Bing right there. Big Bing.
I wanted to,
That was exclamation point. Emphasis.
Yeah, exactly. We have to use exclamation points, right? Because we don't want people to be confused.
Yeah.
People are stupid. They don't know what entertains them. They don't know what their principles are. They just know when they like something and when they don't like something. For some reason in our society, everybody has to have a principled reason for everything. It's a principled reason to enjoy things. It's a principled reason to not enjoy something. It can't be just, I'm not into that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go see that. You know, it has to be like, well, you have to go see this because this is a very big social commentary, and that if you're against
you need to support the cause, or
yeah, exactly.
There's a big social commentary. You need to be against this, right?
Yes, and nobody knows why exactly. Nobody like if you were going to look at it, it's like, well, I didn't want to be preached to. I go to the movie, and it's like, well, the movie's not really preaching. The movie in it itself, there's a lot of chaos in it.
Again, the way I kind of looked at it. The way I looked at it was, congratulations, women get a shitty action movie just like we used to get. Great. Like, that's great. Like, they get to enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even look at it as a woman action movie. It's a comic book movie.
Right.
They're cartoon characters
doing
cartoon character things in a cartoon movie with live action people in it.
Yeah.
I mean, the villain, who's a man,
right,
which for some reason purposely puts a mask on his face, so that he could go about I mean, none of it makes sense. It's not supposed to make any sense,
Right.
I mean, they had the last battles at a fun house, so
my dad even said in the fun house, he's like, all we're missing right now are Biffs, Bams, Pops, Kapows.
But that's the thing, because of the way it was sold, paints the attitude of the people it's being sold to, So like, okay, you're going to go because, well, you and I are going to go because it's our job, right? But you're going to go because you want to be entertained. It's a comic book movie. You're not going to miss out. You're not going to be denied that visceral experience, right? So you're going to go. But how they get you to go is going to paint how you digest the meal that they're serving to you.
Yeah.
And so my attitude's always going to be, well, you sold it wrong, which is why people didn't like it. There's nothing really wrong with the movie.
This is the funny part.
John Wick, if you watch a John Wick movie, it's just as stupid. Like, and I'm not talking stupid because I love John Wick. But they're just, I mean, like, look, he's doing martial arts with a gun. He's
right.
I mean, he's shooting people, and nobody murders that many people. Nobody can murder that many people. Nobody can survive.
I feel like the difference,
though.
But I feel like the difference with John Wick and this, though, and this goes back to my original point, is it knew what it was. Like, it knew what it wanted to be.
Does it know? Does it know? Does any piece of art know what it's supposed to be? If you,
I think you set out to be something. I think you set out to do it.
Yeah, but I mean, I think I didn't get the impression from this movie that it didn't know what it was setting out to be. I think it was very specific in the irreverence that it was trying to accomplish.
All right, the tone irreverence, I agree with you, but I'll give you a good example. Huntress to me was probably the best. Well, okay, no, the best part was Bruce the hyena. Just there's no question about it. That was my favorite part of the movie, and spoilers. Thank God he made it out at the end. That was great. I was very relieved when that happened. That was my favorite. Boy. That was my favorite moment.
It always seems like it's going to be a good discussion, and then you start talking.
I'm actually being serious, though.
That's what's bothering me the most.
I wasn't being facetious. I really was rooting for that hyena. Damn,
that's what's driving me crazy.
But this is like the underlying problem. Before I even get to my Huntress point, that was the biggest cause for concern. Like, I'm like, oh no, is the hyena gonna make it? Everyone else, I'm like, A, I don't know if I care, and B, I don't know if there's no plausible danger for these people to be in. So that's one point. Second point, though, Huntress I thought was awesome. Like, I really did. I thought Mary Elizabeth Winstead was awesome, and she was this like badass Bing. We're just binging all over the place. Ninja like, Batman like, stealth like thing, and then they give her that whole like, I am the Huntress, because it's like, oh no, wait, we forgot, we can't have a totally serious character in here because the whole movie is this. So it was a lot of that. It was a lot of going back and forth. And again, I don't disagree with you. Actually, I didn't really have a problem with any of the movie. I literally give it a B. It is literally, in all definition, a B movie. That's just what it is. And but I could see why audience are just, when they come out of there, there's not going to be any word of mouth.
I honestly don't think. See, I disagree with people who say that the movie didn't make me feel anything. Like, when people go to see a romance or something like that, and they're like, well, I just didn't get the chemistry between these two people. I didn't feel anything from it. The movie didn't make me feel. I believe that it's an interactive experience. You either go there willing to experience something, or you go there with your guard up for whatever reason.
Yeah.
You know, you go there demanding to be entertained, or you go there willing to be entertained, right? So I think we very easily overlook our own complicity in whether or not we're enjoying the experience we're receiving, right? So I don't really think a movie has an identity. I think we apply the identity to the movie. That's why you don't
think though that when a filmmaker sets out to accomplish 1, 2, or 3, that identity is part of that, and they're trying to emote a reaction from you, or not. Reaction's not even the right word. Like they're trying to make you feel something, and they're trying.
Of course they are, but I mean, whether or not they're successful is up to us, not up to them.
I guess, yeah. Nah,
and so
I don't know. I don't quite. I know what you're saying. I don't disagree, but I don't agree with what you're saying as well. At the same time, I'm kind of like.
I don't know. Let me finish what I'm saying.
I don't know what my opinion.
I mean, how the heck could you ever know exactly what I'm saying? That's my point. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
One thing that did kind of come of this though too was interesting to see the reactions. I mean, just scrolling through, you do the hashtag Birds of Prey on Twitter, and again, this is our lesson. We're going to start preaching this. Every week we need to remind people Twitter is not real. Social media is not real. Just everyone remember that. It's not real. Don't live in it. I think I'm speaking more to a younger generation who grew up with it versus an older generation that kind of, I think, hopefully understands this, but maybe not. Anyway, you have I saw one angry, female Twitter user who I hope is not a robot, but maybe is because it's not real, going on about how DC Comics didn't let them in because it was a boys club for so long, and this was a chance, and blah, blah, and it was a real big F you to the people that didn't go out and support this. And then I saw Gary Conway, who is one of my favorite Spider-Man writers of all time, just look, the tone of his tweet was very like, hey, this is just my opinion, don't kill me on it. And of course the endless comments killed him on it. And I actually chimed in also because I just...
What did he say?
He said that the male audience was not mature enough to handle an all-female movie, that they're looking to almost to agree with the 15-year-old tweet we talked about last week, where it's not sexy enough for a specific male audience to go see, and so therefore they didn't go see it. And I think personally, if it was a cool movie, sexy is such a subjective term anyway, that I think it wouldn't matter. If it's a good movie, people are going to go see it. I think that's just the bottom line, right? I don't think people are protesting something based on that. And one female Twitter user says, like, look, I'm a female, and it just wasn't a good movie. Like if it was a better movie, people would go see it.
How would they know to go see it, though, if they knew it was a better movie?
Well,
I mean, they had 2 days. Yeah, but you got 2 days. 2 days.
Dude, that's instantaneous now.
Nah, 2 days. It's not. You're not going to be, if you decided you're not going to see this movie until you hear someone say something, you're not going to turn your Saturday into all of a sudden I got to go see.
No, but if you were on the fence, and all you're seeing is like, holy cow, you got to go see this. What a great ending, blah, blah, blah.
In the preceding weeks, yeah, then the people would come out and see it. But I mean, I'm talking about the first 2 days, where movies are made or broken. That's not word of mouth. That's not going to. Nobody's using a word of mouth system if you're only calculating the success of something based on the 2 days it has when it opens. Yeah. Nobody's talking about a grassroots kind of groundswell, so that you could get your movie over the $1 billion finish line or whatever the heck the dollar amount is that signifies a success these days. Yeah. The bottom line is that not every movie can be a $1 billion movie, no matter what. Not every movie is a barnstorming, genre-breaking extravaganza. There's nothing really wrong with Birds of Prey, except for the fact that in this particular iteration, it didn't make as much money as they projected it was going to make. The thing about that is that you can't project that it's going to be a worldwide phenomenon if there's not worldwide appeal to it. Yeah. This movie appealed to a particular subsection of fandom, it's not a broad spectrum. It's not an Avengers movie. It's not a Superman movie theoretically, where it's just it's a general audience's kind of situation where everybody could go in and watch Superman save a boat from sinking and go, yay! And then, we all eat popcorn and go home.
This is one of those movies, though, This is one of those movies, too, though, where I felt a real disconnect with the people reviewing it versus what my actual experience was. And what I mean by that is, like, when people went to see Joker, what a lot of people were saying is, I really need time to digest this. It really makes you think. There is the topic of an unreliable narrator kept coming up, right? And so kind of going in, I was like, I walked away going, I know exactly what those people are talking about, right? It was very impactful watching Joaquin Phoenix slowly devolve into the Joker. It was very compelling. Whether or not it was a good movie or not, I'm just, the what the critics kind of said, and then kind of with the ending to Joker, where, well, how did that really end? Did any of that stuff happen? Did it not? Because how reliable is he a narrator? Totally get it. This was like, this is bonkers action. You're going to love it. Ewan McGregor was great. And he was. Which, by the way, doesn't he look like Jason Bateman in this movie?
A little bit, yeah.
Think about that. They could be like brothers, right? Easily. Because he's got no accent.
I'd rather not think too deeply about that. But okay. Sure.
They're really, I mean, the real thing was they're really praising the action. And I just thought the action was like you said, kind of cartoonish. I didn't walk out being like, wow, they changed the action game.
But see, that's the thing. It's not everything's going to be a game changer.
I know.
It was a well-made movie that shots were, it was shot competently. Yeah. There was acting in it. I believed.
I love when you use the word competently, though. Because I feel like you're not insulting, but it comes off as insulting.
I mean, I don't know. I don't understand. I think the thing is, we all apply our own meaning to everything. Yeah. Right? If it didn't do well, it's like, okay, everybody's going to have a take on why this didn't do well. If it did really well, because like my attitude about the Joker, the message of the Joker, nobody got that message.
Yeah.
And the message is backwards anyway, but nobody got the message. It's like, stop punching down. That's the message of the Joker. Everybody's going to punch down. One of the people on the ground is going to punch back up. And you're not ready for it. Nobody's going to be ready for it. You have a culture that punches down, then the people who get punched are going to punch back in probably the most visceral way imaginable. That didn't really change any games. That doesn't stop anybody from the cancel culture still exists. Punching down still exists. It's still a big deal. It doesn't matter. So, it was a great message.
No, but I actually disagree with you, and not in terms of the game changer in a wider scope of society. No, yes, Joker didn't change anyone's mind in society, but I think what it did do was change how a superhero film can be, or a supervillain film in this case, can be viewed from a more realistic scope. So
I think contemporarily, because one of the greatest dramas in the last 20 years. The Road to Perdition was a comic book movie.
Sure.
So, I mean, comic book movies have been here for a long time. It's just like a lot of people, it's just that now we can admit that this was a comic book movie. They kept it very quiet that The Road to Perdition was inspired by a comic book movie. But comic book movies,
I call
comic
that
books
progress.
in general, is it progress? That's not an accomplishment. That's just stuff we can admit now. That's not, that's not a progress. That's not a progression.
I love it.
The parameters are a little less a little less stringent. That's all.
Your griping that you didn't get your point across, I think you made several hot take. Nothing as great as blaming the Deadpool audience for why Deadpool was not going to win. But
no, because that's you. That's uniquely your
keep working
monstrosity. No, I'm not trying to get to that level. Trust me.
One day.
That level of moronicism is not my in my bailiwick.
When we come back, we got a treat. We had that Kevin Sharp on last week. We've got the Matt Walton. He had a small role in The Irishman. He's on the CBS All Access series Tell Me a Story. He's also the lead in a new film called The Misogynists. So we are going to learn all about all the stuff that he did. He had a great scene with Pacino and working with Martin Scorsese. So he is coming up next.
Pornhub traffic plummets during Game of Thrones season premiere. Porn provider Pornhub reports their site traffic was down 4.5% on Sunday when HBO aired the popular fantasy series season 7 premiere. It's a considerable change in visitors as Sunday night is one of our most popular times.
Here's a ridiculous question that probably no one asked.
Yeah.
Who did they report that to? I mean, like who said, "Hey, how'd your traffic go while Game of Thrones is on?"
Yeah. And
like how did that become a thing?
Somebody had a question. Somebody had to think that
someone
question
had to wonder,
and contact Pornhub and be like, was porn down?
It had to be so bad that Pornhub had to call somebody and say,
Yeah.
"Hey, where'd everybody go?"
Do you know what they probably did? They probably put it on social media.
Yeah.
Happy to be joined by Mr. Matt Walton, actor, director, producer, and host. Mr. Matt Walton, how you doing? I'm just going to call you Mr. Matt Walton the entire night. I think that's.
Call me
I think
Mr. Matt
that's
Walton. I should have made that my stage name.
It's very, very formal. I love it. I love it. Really happy to have you on here. You are a number of things. I checked out your Twitter page as well too, and there's just so much stuff going on. Where can we begin? Let's begin with your role in The Irishman. Considering we just, this past weekend was the Oscars. First of all, talk to us about the role in The Irishman. I know you shared a scene with
Mr. Pacino, Mr. Al Pacino.
Yeah,
it's a great story. So one of the many things I've had to do as an actor to diversify my income sources is I'm sort of a news anchor in this crazy world of online news, and I often play them in movies. I played a morning host for the Coen brothers. That was a dream come true, and I played the host of Meet the Press circa 1976 maybe.
Okay.
I knew it at the time we shot. I had done a lot of research. And it was an added scene, I believe. I think we had already been shooting for a couple months. My dear friend Stephanie Kurtzuba plays De Niro's wife in it. She had already been shooting stuff, so I had been called in to do some reporter chasing Jimmy Hoffa at a funeral, and ended up getting this. And I didn't really know it was the Meet the Press set. They recreated.
Wow.
First of all, they had Netflix money, so they had they could make everything exactly like it was. And I walk in. It was the original studio, if I'm not mistaken, where the original Meet the Press, in the exact same layout. They even had extras sort of on the sides and in the shadows as producers and sort of overseers of the network back in the day. It was myself and my press junket there, and Pacino as Jimmy Hoffa. And I'm like, all right, it's not a big part. If you blink, you might miss it in the final cut, but for the shoot day, not many actors get to say, "Hey, I worked with Pacino."
Yeah.
I act with Pacino. So I was really excited. I met him, and the poor guy stumbled out of his trailer, and he looked, a little worse for the wear. I think it had been a long shoot, and he's not a young man.
No.
Nothing against him, but when we were working on the thing, this might be against the law, the rules to say, but anyway, I think he had so much to do. He was getting fed some lines. This was an incidental scene. So he fed some lines to an ear prompter, and his assistant was reading the line, and the first take is action. Marty Scorsese's there walking around like, this is incredible, and I hear my line come through Al's earpiece, and he responds to the line in the earpiece before I say mine. I'm like, oh shoot. Out comes Marty. All right, we're gonna do that again. Just sort of walks by her, and then I'm like, this is my show. This is my one chance to. I had read that Marty likes Mr. Scorsese.
Look at you. See, that's it. You got two legends.
Yeah, it's what that he likes improv and he likes research. So I did both. On my second take, I had launched into some little fact I had discovered about the thing we were discussing, and shot Mr. Pacino a word that, if he could have taken the earpiece out of his ear and thrown it on the ground to engage with that moment I had just thrown at him with this word. It's something like, sufficient, or some word like sufficient. You want to hear about sufficient? I'll tell you about sufficient. This was what was sufficient, and on and on and on. I was like, And Scorsese comes out like, that was great. Yeah, I think we're going to use that one. That was great. Yeah, keep doing that. Keep doing that.
Wow.
I had my chance. I had my moment, man. I had my moment.
That's it.
They did not use that tape.
Oh.
But I also, I make movies, and no one understands the need and nature of an edit better than someone who has to put together a story in pictures. So I highly recommend that anybody out there who's in the industry who wants to act, you should definitely wear the shoes of every other crew member backstage on a set, no matter what, to really know what goes into it, because it is completely a collaborative effort. And it's not about you, man. It's not about you.
Talk to us about some of the other films that you've made and things that you're most proud of.
Golly, the things I'm most proud of, people have not seen the most. I mean, I guess my biggest audience and one of my career, what I would call a feather in the cap, was Mitt Romney. He's back in the news. I was basically like College Humor's Phil Hartman for a while. I was the older guy.
Okay.
I was like the dad, or the aging superhero or whatever. And so I was able to play Mitt Romney for a few sketches back in 2012 for that election. And we did this thing called Mitt Romney Style, which was a almost a shot-for-shot remake of Gangnam Style. We got like 80 million hits between, YouTube
That's
and
awesome.
the College Humor website at the time. So that was a big thing. I still get recognized for that. Mitt Romney Style. Google Mitt Romney Style. It still holds up. Me working with the Coen brothers was a dream come true. That was almost a decade ago in Burn After Reading. And I guess the things I'm most proud of are the things, like I said, that are more obscure. I did this thing called Think Tank. Chris Moore, who was the producer of all the American Pie movies, and some brilliant writers out in LA. And we shot it in New York. It was an ensemble thing. It was designed for the web. It was like what I would call a popcorn series, little bites. And we would just tackle a subject. It was hilarious. It was a bunch of like weirdo intelligentsia in Brooklyn trying to solve the world's problems around a table, It just really worked in the style of The Office with that, steady, that shaky, So love that. That's floating around somewhere. It was A&E's first streaming web series before everyone was streaming web. And I made a movie. I produced a movie this year. It's not really my baby. It was a guy I used to make a lot of my income doing commercials and voiceovers, and a lot of the advertising, most of it has gone now to social media influencers. So now I shoot social media influencers. I go on the other side of the camera, like corporate videos and whatnot. What was the point of this story?
You are very proud of it.
Oh, this movie. So this guy, my buddy, this kid who's been my editor, and he's just a great visual storyteller. He's like, I'm pregnant with this movie. And he's like, I think we can make it for 10 grand. And I said, well, I bet I can get someone to put 10 grand in. I'll put in 10 grand, and let's see if we can make it for 20. So we did, and we came in under budget. And
wow.
I don't know. It's called Pretenders. It's coming out to be in the festivals next season.
That's awesome.
But I just have a movie that came out. It's hitting theaters this week. It's a limited release, but it's really cool. It's called The Misogynists, and it stars Dylan Baker as a Trump supporter on the night of the 2016 election, and his crazy work friends who come around, and the whole conversation unfolds about everything that everybody thought about that night. The writer, Owner Turkel, he's done a few independent films. He's kind of an indie darling. He ONURTURKEL, Owner Turkel, writer director. He wrote the script in like 2 weeks, and then we shot it months after the election, and it was at the Hamptons Film Festival a year after Election Day in 2017. So.
So now, how's it making the theater release now? Like, how did that work?
Well, it goes through the festival grinder, right? And then somebody picks it up and it gets distributed, and then the distributor decides, or whoever is involved decides, does this behoove a theatrical release? Do we have access to it? I think that it's an election year. People can get it onto some screens that they might not otherwise. It was just another, romance movie or something.
That makes sense.
So I have a feeling that's what it is. And Owners, it's a hot little movie, man. It's good.
It's awesome.
It's really fun. It's really
now,
fun.
let me ask you a question. I know The Irishman also kind of had a limited theater release, but you may or may not have caught it in theaters because it's Netflix.
Right.
This one has a limited theater release, but are you going to go and see it? And have you seen? What's the experience? I'm just curious if you've seen your own movie in theaters. Like, what's the experience of doing that and getting that public reaction? While you're sitting there watching it.
It's surreal because my shoulders have gone up thinking about it because as you're watching yourself, you're like,
yeah.
you see all the things. Adam Driver was talking about this. He's notorious. He never wants to.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
Dylan Baker told a funny story on set. He's like, one time I was interviewing with Spielberg, and he goes, "Remember when you did that thing in that movie?" And he goes, "My face was blank," and Spielberg said, "You never watched that movie, did you?" It was one of Dylan Baker's great films. I can't remember which one it was, but Spielberg, and it ended the interview, and it ended it was weird. I don't know. It's up to the actor. I don't mind. I'm interested to see what cuts they use and how the edit went around, sort of how what I did on set was useful for the overall thing. I'm very much interested in the end result rather than my part of it. I've sort of given up hope that my part of it is going to have any profound influence. I just hope it helps it along,
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, it's fine. For me, it's okay, because I remember it. And if you do hosting and anchoring, there's a lot of self-awareness, even voiceovers. You're listening to yourself all the time. A lot of actors, the better actors, like the Adam Drivers, it just oozes out of them. You know what I mean? I can go down a whole list. One of my current favorites, but some people can just ooze the stuff out of there, and they never hear themselves. It's always external. I'm always I've got one eye on the monitor, so to speak.
Yeah.
I'm always making sure that we're doing. I'm a director, but the first thing I ever wanted to be in my life is a director. When I saw Star Wars, I didn't want to be Han Solo. I didn't want to be Harrison Ford. I wanted to be George Lucas.
Okay.
How old? 4 years old. I knew that. 4 years old. I saw that.
Oh man, yeah.
So
that's amazing. That's actually really amazing because I couldn't even fathom that people actually got paid to do to make these things and create these things. When my background is comic books and graphic novels.
Oh, me too. Well, that's funny, man. I had to make a career choice my junior year of high school.
Oh, okay.
I was trying to get out of where I grew up, which was in rural New Jersey. I was just trying to get to New York or something, just trying to get to life. And I had to make a choice. So this was shortly after the Michael Keaton Batman.
Yeah.
I had become a comic book artist. I had a whole title. I did The Mandalorian I had basically written in second grade. I did the Further Adventures of Boba Fett, and I've just been writing comics.
Sure.
It's basically, you were making, what do you call it? Storyboard. You're storyboarding movies. You see a story take place in your mind. And you see how those pictures need to go. So comic books are storyboarders, are directors. A
lot of comic book artists are storyboard artists. That's part of their job. Yeah.
You look at you watch The Watchmen. It's like, why? This is perfect. Why not put the squid in it? Anyway, we can get to The Watchmen. But yeah, I had to make a choice in 11th or 12th grade if I was going to be a comic book artist or an actor. And I knew actor was a risky profession, but at the time I determined that comic book artist was even riskier. Next generation, they're not going to be into this. I wasn't wrong, but my generation made movies about it anyway.
Yep.
All the Chris's who play the superheroes, they didn't grow up with this stuff.
Yeah.
It wasn't their generation stuff. They had different things,
Yeah.
We had it. I had it. My son has it. He knows everybody. We go through the encyclopedias of both DC and Marvel. So
that's awesome.
He's raised on the proper, mythology here.
There you go. Well, that's the way we like to. That's what we like to hear. We're very excited about that. Now, you mentioned Adam Driver. Adam Driver was up for an Oscar. Did you catch the Oscars? It's weird. It's a lot of. I feel like so this was our Oscars, recap from the weekend, and our focus was Joker, obviously being in the comic book graphic novel world, but
I almost got that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which what role?
All right, so the news anchor they ended up using.
Okay, yeah.
That's a buddy of mine. I've known him for a long time. We've been up for the same parts again and again. He had the white hair. The white hair ultimately didn't make or break anything, but what's funny is. This was 2 summers ago. I was doing a play out in Pennsylvania, and I said, I did the Joker. won scholarships to college drawing the Joker. You know what I mean? I've been waiting for this Joker for a long time. And they needed news anchors. And of course, that's how I get into big pictures. So I went to meet with Todd, and I said, hey, man, I think I've already been in one of your movies. He goes, what are you talking about? I go, I think I'm in Bittersweet Motel. He goes, Bittersweet Motel. That's the fish documentary he made.
Okay.
Following the band around in the summer of '98. I was a big fish head back in the day. And I'm like, yeah, I was on that tour with you the entire time. I have not seen myself, but in one of the group shots, I am pretty certain. So for the next, I'm not even joking, for the next 20 minutes, we're talking fish. He's just
that's great.
And then we do this. And every time we're about to start our audition, he goes, oh, wait, I got to tell you one more thing about that. Did you know that they did this and this and this? And so we just had this great time. Finally, I said the audition, I'm like, you ready to start now? You got people that's ready to do this? So I read it. We had some fun. Last I heard, he was like, I'm trying to get you in there, man. I'm trying to get you in there. But they ended up cutting. There was a bunch of news.
Yeah.
And again, I'm interested in the end result.
Yeah.
I loved that movie.
Okay.
I loved that movie.
How surprised were you by the film, and how surprised were you by the Oscar love that was given in the form of all the nominations and Joaquin Phoenix winning?
I was surprised how horrifying it ended up being emotionally for many people who saw it, and I was happy because that's, for me as a comic book guy, that's what it really was. I mean, the heroism and the fear were not silly. Yeah. And it's very hard to translate onto the big screen. I mean, one of the successes of the Marvel franchise is they're able to encapsulate silly so that you could buy into the heroism and the fear. Yeah. Whereas DC is all fear. Like rogue heroism and barely heroism. Yeah. It's different mindset and set of philosophical approaches, I think. And so this was the DC universe. I remember this is the Arkham Asylum Joker. This is the Killing Joke Joker. This was the guy. This was peak Joker for me. And I thought Heath Ledger's Joker was amazing. Right. Totally different. Yeah, well, yes, but the latter day Joker to this guy, like I almost felt like he was setting up, and then that it was a lost cause if you're blending it together. But the Nolan Batman disappointed me in several ways. I know I'm in the minority in that. No, my co-host will agree with you in many ways. He says it's a great movie. It's not a good Batman movie. Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. Yes, it's a good movie, and if you don't give a shit about Batman, then you give a crap about Batman, you'll enjoy it. Nolan's a great filmmaker, don't get me wrong, but you don't put a love interest in Batman. Not until he becomes Batman. That's the whole point. He grows up without love. That's the whole point. That's the empty shell. You cannot have. You can pine, but you cannot have. Anyway, we can go on. I like it. All right. In addition to all this cool stuff you got going on in movies and film and being a comic book guy, lastly, I know you are writing something about blockchain right now. And I want to get into it just briefly because I think it's very fascinating with Bitcoin and everything that's going on right now. But the actual undercurrent of what Bitcoin is actually a blockchain, and that's like a digital. How do you describe that? Actually, well, I will describe it incorrectly. Yeah, the best way I've come to understand what the blockchain is is it is it's like a dark web group of people. That's not dark web. That's not the right word for it. But it's like, a secret monastery of information keeping. And they are spread all over the world. You don't know who they are. They all vouch for each other some way or another. Or there's a check and a balance in there. But what they all do is they all check the ledger. So if there's a transaction, it's got to match on everybody's ledger throughout the blockchain for it to exist and to be locked into place. That's my understanding of the blockchain. So what crypto is, from what I understand, is I'm inventing the value of a thing. I am just manufacturing something that I deem has a value, and we'll see what the market considers that value to be. So it's huge risk. Future of transactions, sure, probably in some way. Well, the reason I actually bring it up in relation to what we do, Devils Do Comics,
actually published a guide to Bitcoin and blockchain, and one of the things they said was, imagine the day when an artist can produce something and no one can steal it. And so it will give you the value back to what you have because you could release it, and the only way you get it, is if the transaction is allowed. And so it's Josh Blaylock. He did a really cool comic on it, and he talked about the day when artists can start releasing through utilizing blockchain and utilizing the digital signature that you only get one per user. So the bringing back the days of music as a commodity, comics as a commodity, movies as a commodity, by utilizing this technology, which I thought was actually fascinating, and I still don't understand any of it.
That would be an amazing upside down 360-degree turn in just a generation and a half, considering I was in college during the Napster age.
Same here, yeah.
I was a young man. I guess Napster was a little after my college days. And now for artists to be able to own their material,
correct,
without piracy, I mean, that's big in the art world. Yeah. So what we're involved in, I'm doing the sort of content and spokesperson stuff and writing commercials and ads to try to make people understand what my company's doing. It's called Evolve. Like the word evolve with the letter A in front of it. About to launch in the Swiss market because
awesome.
Not crypto friendly at all. Yeah.
Not yet.
Fair enough. But what they're doing is they're trying to utilize blockchain for treatments and cures, medical treatments and cures that best way to describe it is that are independent films. The cancer treatment, that's the Silver Linings Playbook. Basically, Bradley Cooper, in order to win an Oscar today, you kind of have to produce your own independent film, right? So if you're Bradley Cooper, you can make a Silver Linings Playbook. You can win an Oscar. If you're a little research lab with a cancer treatment that's just a little bit, you're not going to get it to market because Fast and Furious 5 diabetic treatment is going to be there, and Smurfs 4, and you know what I'm saying. So I'm not disparaging the model of the medical business, but what it does is it favors the profitable stuff and leaves behind, or leaves sort of at that next phase of needed research, the potential cures, the potential treatments. And so this fund is going to be designed to facilitate that next phase for these various treatments and cures for everything from hair loss to cancer all around the world, in hopes that it gets them to market faster, more safely. And we're not the only game in town. The Mayo Clinic is on board. They're looking at their own version of this. So our company's just trying to be first. We'll see. We'll launch this week. We'll see what happens.
Amazing. Well, the Matt Walton on Twitter.
Walton, yes.
And the Matt Walton. We had that Kevin Sharp on last week, and we got the Matt Walton on today. Mr. Matt Walton, thank you so much for joining us. This has been fantastic. Where else can they find you online?
TheMattWalton.com.
All right.
I'll update that now that people are actually listening.
There you go. All right. When we come back, we'll go spinning the racks. Want to thank our guest, Matt Walton. You can find him on Twitter as the Matt Walton. Our guest last week was that Kevin Sharp. Really great. We do this every week. We go spinning the racks.
Spin the rack, spin that rack.
Tonight, all we're doing for Spin the Racks is showing this amazing graphic. What does it mean? Secrets of the Sire has gone rogue. We will tell you. It's got a big announcement coming soon in the next couple weeks. We will get into it in detail as to what it means for the show, what it means for you guys, what it means.
Oh, come on. You can tell them. We're launching our Swami campaign where we are going to...
We will accept bids for predictions.
For box office predictions.
Yeah.
Just be honest about it. No, don't hide. Don't hide it, Don't build it up where there's no build up.
Cat's out of the bag. No, all right. Secret of the Sire has gone rogue. We'll find out what that means in the coming weeks. Stay tuned next month. We'll get into that even more. Next week, we're going to welcome back on the show because he got jealous. Everyone gets jealous. Todd Black, Kickstarter creator. He's got a follow-up Kickstarter. His first one went really well, and I like having him on the show. But we're gonna spin the comic to movies racks properly with him. We're gonna get Todd's top 5 comic picks you should be reading out there, and we'll learn about his new Kickstarter. Also, more Birds of Prey Fallout. We'll go deeper into that as well, and we'll see what else happens because I'm sure a trailer of some kind will drop or news will break.
Something's gonna happen.
Because
someone's gonna blow up.
It always does. We will see you next week.